Okay, we're going to start by going through the autofocus here so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. So it's going to be an AFC, and it is autofocus with viewfinder, as you can see at the top. Now let's go to, and it will be in full auto, so subject recognition should work. And subject recognition is on. So let's take some shots. Okay, now I purposely have Frida Frog offset slightly. And let's do a shot here. Okay, let's do another one. See if, actually let's defocus here. And then reacquire focus here. See where it focuses. Okay, and now I'm going to move the camera slightly. Go a bit higher up. Do it again. Another shot, and we'll go over to just within the autofocus frame here. There we go. Just within. So it stops just at her feet. All right, let's see what we got. All right, so, oh, that's interesting. The first shot here, as you'll notice, it did not catch anything. There's nothing in focus. Nothing at all. Interesting. Second shot, whoops, actually let's go back to the very first one. Okay, so there you can see it did focus on something. What did it focus on? The hairs. Right on the chinny chin chin, right at her mouth is exactly where it focused. Zoom back in. So that's right where it nailed focus. Let's try here. Same place. So it nailed right around here. This one actually did get the eye. But this one did not. This is the one from before. So this one did catch the eye. But you'll notice it is the dead center of the autofocus area, whereas this one is slightly off to the side. The one before that is off to the other side. So it's not looking very good. And this one is up to the left. It's around the eye. And this one captured absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all is in focus. And if we go into my settings here, first frame action in AFC is in focus priority. So it shouldn't have even actually shot anything. Now let's switch this over to AFS in full auto. So autofocus mode is now in single, and we're going to leave everything else the same. So active autofocus area is auto. AFS setting is focus priority. Autofocus restriction is off, so it's using the entire array of autofocus points. And subject recognition is on. Let's see what happens now. Now the first thing you'll notice is it actually shows multiple autofocus points. So there's one shot, do it again, another shot. Okay, now I'm going to move the camera around a little bit, let's raise it up a bit towards the center here. I'll do the same thing as I did last time. I will defocus this and then let it reacquire focus. Okay, and then I will move this over slightly. Okay, now let's see what that translates into. Okay, now you'll notice there's all these autofocus points. So these are all the autofocus points that the camera actually used when it captured the image. Remember, I am at f1.8. So, whoops, sorry, didn't mean to kick that. Okay, so the eye is slightly out of focus. This one is slightly out of focus as well. And I know it's not the most ideal thing. Unfortunately, I don't have a model to actually help me with this. And you'll notice here, the autofocus points are actually changing. So it is recognizing something within the image. And let's see what it caught here. Yep, just on the other side of the fur there, just on the left side of the mouth. Okay, and this one got the eye. And that one's strictly the mouth area. And this one, slightly off. Okay, now let's see what happens if we actually turn subject recognition off entirely. Okay, so I'm going back in to change this to AFC and going to turn off subject recognition, and everything else will remain the same, full auto, and let's see what happens. Okay, this time I decided I would raise it up actually to give it more of a chance of actually acquiring the eyes. So we're in AFC, subject recognition is off. As you can hear, it's hunting all over the place. Okay, so that's one shot, two shots. Let's move the camera a bit. All right, let's see what we get with that. Okay, so the very first image, once again, absolutely nothing was in focus. Nothing at all. And just to show one more time, I am in first frame action AFC as focus priority. And there's nothing in this image. Next one is at the very bottom. So just where the mouth area is again. And just to show, so this is where the camera actually focused, and here is the center. And once again, that's where the camera focused, and there's the center. And for this one, focused off just to the side, and that's the center of the image. Now let's go to AFS, and see what happens there. So I'm going to change that to AFS, and everything else will remain the same. Okay, so here we are in AFS. One shot, two shots, and let's see, let's move this a bit. 3. 4, and let's go up here. 5. Alright, now let's see what we actually get. Okay, so subject recognition off in AFS, and let's see. So you can see all the autofocus points that it actually did capture, and when I zoom in, it will default to the main, the primary one, which is right at the eye. Now, where's the center of this image? It's right where the camera focused. Okay, so let's go to the next one, and again you'll see all the autofocus points changed. The camera location did not change. Look at the image. The image remained the same. But for some reason, The autofocus point's completely changed. So it actually did use a different primary autofocus, because here is the center of the image, and when I zoom in, that is the primary focus point that was actually used. And if I click the joystick in, that is the center of the image. So that is different than what happened on this image, whereby the center is the primary focus point. The other interesting thing is, with subject recognition off, it actually did detect the eye, and again here. So I'm not sure, and there's the center of the image. So not sure exactly what the deal is here. Okay, this is back to how it seemed to be focusing with subject recognition on before. And this one here, yeah, same thing. Right on the very, very edge of the mouth here. Now let's try a different subject with some contrast and see what happens. Actually, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. So I've turned subject recognition back on, and I have it in AFC, and subject recognition is currently on. Now, I've preset the camera to focus directly dead center on the eye, and to show you how, like, the tracking to me should work with the center focus points as the primary area and then track from there. However, it just randomly will pick something. And that's the problem when a lot of people, are shooting birds in flight. That actually becomes the issue. Because as you're tracking something, you want that first acquisition of focus to be in the center, which it's just not. You're expecting it to be in the center. You can see where the semicircle is here. And when I go to focus, it's not picking that center area at all. Now I'm going to turn the full auto system off, and I'm just going to use select autofocus. And just to show you here, let's see if I can do this. Okay, so it's focused, and let's move the camera around so you can see where it's tracking. So it is tracking where it initially acquired focus, but where it initially acquired focus is not where I wanted it to. I'm using, I've got the semicircle directly at the eye, and it is not going there. That's the problem. There's something with the algorithm. Now I'm going to switch over to select expanded and show you what happens when you use that. Okay, so let's change that over. Let's go to select expanded. I'll even do select expanded full. So it's the full autofocus array. Only difference is I can select it. So let's see how it tracks now. Okay, and before you say anything, yes, I know the battery is showing low. It's fine. Now let's focus. And you'll notice it's actually tracking and selecting where I initially wanted it to. Okay, and now you see it just jumped. Okay, let's see what happened. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so in select autofocus, that's pretty much where I was focusing. And next one, so it does actually use the center point as the main focus area, and then from there it tracks. Now I'm going to do this again in select, except this time I'm going to move the camera around while I shoot, and we'll see how the autofocus points show up at that point. Alright, so here we go. It's my, let's see, I'll shoot there. Now I'll start tracking. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Now, while I was shooting this, I was hoping that it would stay around the eyes. So we'll see here. Okay, so the first one where I was tracking. Yep, and there's the eye. And here is the center point. If you look, you can maybe, hopefully you can see the little square there. Let's go back, go in. Yeah, so there's the focus point that it picked, and here's the center of the frame. Next shot, you'll see the autofocus point is way over here now, and let's see where that went. Back to the eyes.
And it was right at that moment that my microphone actually died. So as you can see here, the actual autofocus points, if you follow where the SEL is, the red dot is the focus point that was acquired, and I'm showing where that actually translates onto the photo itself. So as you can see, SEL actually does work as expected in regards to tracking. Now the auto, it just picks up random areas or random focus points on its own that don't necessarily correlate to where the center area actually is, which I think majority of the time that's the issue. The automatic thing, even with subject recognition, whether it's on or off, it just picks up random things that it wants out of nowhere.
Okay, so as you can see, there are some inconsistencies in regards to how the algorithms work for detecting what to focus on. For me, myself personally, I now use select autofocus. So it just seems to be the most accurate form of tracking. I can nail that first dead center area with the most sensitive autofocus points, and it will continue to track from that point on. The algorithm for the subject recognition, still kind of up in the air. It does not work in AFC, at least from my experience. And yes, unfortunately, my family does not want me putting up any video of them. So the tests that I have done in regards to, a human face with the eyes, yes, it does work in AFS. It works very consistently in AFS. AFC, if you happen, that's where the tricky part comes in. If it happens to capture the eye, then yeah, it would seem as if it has eye detect autofocus, but it could just be the contrast from that area is what's actually standing out more to the camera, not necessarily the shape of the eyes. So, there's that element as well. And at the same time, Pentax has not actually come out and explained what subjects does the system actually recognize. So yeah, there's a lot of arguing going on back and forth, people blaming the photographer, people blaming the camera, people blaming the algorithm, people blaming the autofocus, and, blaming the operator for not picking the correct settings. And I have gone through every single setting in the autofocus, and from my experience for birds in flight, AFC and subject recognition in full autofocus just does not work. I can't count the number of times, completely overcast sky. It's like shooting through a white sheet, white blanket or sheet with no shadows or anything. So there's absolutely zero contrast. There's no micro contrast. There's nothing standing out for the camera to latch onto in regards to the focus. The most contrasted subject is the bird, but the camera will pick an autofocus point away from the bird into a plain white sky. It doesn't add up. It just doesn't make any sense. And I don't find it to be very reliable. in AFC. In AFS, if I was doing portraits, then absolutely I would be using full auto autofocus or zone autofocus with subject recognition enabled. I would absolutely use that for portraiture because it works. Now, as I said, this is part one. I wanted to go very in depth, show you guys the entire process and everything. And sorry about my microphone dying before. Anyway, if it ain't one thing, it's another, right? Part two is going to be, I will go out, shoot birds in flight, and show you the back of the screen, explain things. It's not going to be as long as this video because I've already gone over the major in-depth elements of explanations in this video. The next one's just going to basically be me shooting. Here's the pictures. Here's what the back of the camera showed. Here's where the focus points are. Here's the settings that I used. And the rest of the verdict will be up to all of you. So that's it. If you like the video, leave a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. Helps me out. If you want to support me in everything that I'm trying to do for you guys, I really appreciate it. I'll leave that information at the bottom of the description. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and you will see me on part two of this very video. I'm out.